Good afternoon and welcome to Career Launch Live. I am your host, Catherine McCord. I am very excited about today's episode. I know I say that at the start of every episode, but today it really, really is true. I've been looking forward to this for quite some time. I have some terrific guests with me today. We are going to be venturing into the world of HR tech, which is very complicated, a lot of fun, something new going on all the time. And most excitingly, we have some of the tech titans with us today, and they're fellow women, which makes me so excited. And you know what? I'm too excited to even do their intro, so I'm just going to go ahead and bring them in. So let's welcome with us today. We're going to have Miss Linda Ginac and Miss Jennifer Sethre. Did I say that right? Please tell me I said your name right. You're muted again.
We thought we unmuted.
Yeah. And I had a great response. I was like, killed it, nailed it. And it was like,
oh, I'm so glad though. You still made me happy. I'm still very happy that I nailed it.
Oh. You were very, very close, but yes.
I was so close. All right, ladies. So tell us, so we're going to start off today we're obviously be talking about HR tech and diving into all that, but please tell me a little bit about each of you. Let's start with you, Linda, and then we'll move over to you, Jennifer.
Awesome. Linda Ginac. I am the CEO of Talent Guard, a HR tech company out of Austin, Texas, where we focus on delivering solutions to organizations that are focused on upskilling, reskilling, career pathing, succession planning, and really just using data and science to understand their talent and how to make decisions on that talent.
Awesome. And what about you, Miss Jennifer?
So I am the CEO of Entry, and we have a B2C solution and a B2B solution, but we figured out how to get people through applicant tracking system software and create resumes for them and create customized resumes where they can import a job description and then email it out. And it looks like a resume on top, but underneath it's sexy code and things like that get people through the process and provided they have the right skills in front of the hiring managers. And
see, that fascinates me. I want to pause for
matching, doesn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. Matching. It has a matching algorithm.
Thank you.
Yes, that's really powerful.
Thanks for
so you create resumes that do candidate matching.
Pardon me?
So you create resumes that do candidate matching?
Mm-hmm.
That's extraordinary.
Yeah.
That really amazes me.
And then we also do culture matching so that if, you have a certain feel within your organization, and whether you're looking for an engineer or you're looking for a dev or you're looking for a marketing person or you're looking for a salesperson, does that person match your organization and your company culture? And everybody that uses the software goes through and does an assessment, but it's fun, it's gamified, it's very sexy, and it gives people, I think, a really good baseline on who they are and sort of the environment that they fit best in. Oh my gosh, I can't talk without that.
The job description, it literally helps create a customized resume.
Yeah.
Which is incredible.
I know this because I'm a user of a tool, not that I'm looking for a job, but I wanted to make sure I was a tester.
Let me throw that out there. I am not looking for a job. Please do not contact me for a job. Please.
Right. Linda went through, and when we were going through, it gave me, some people are like, oh, that's so great. And, I love, and she was like, so this is going to take a minute. And went through with really, but it's when you're developing something. I mean, you know this, Catherine. It's sometimes you can't see the forest through the trees, and so you see something that you think is really great, really accessible, is really intuitive. But when someone else is going through it, that isn't one of your developers or your QA people or in your employed, gave really constructive feedback. And I was like, this part was really confusing, and I was like.
You have to have that. You have to. I've learned that very much going through the development process is that you have to have those people that are not the yes men, that are not just, and you have to have your cheerleaders too, and they're wonderful, but you need those people that are going to be brutally honest with you and go, okay, this right here, no, don't take that right on out of there. This does not work, or fix this or change this or that. And it's so important that people actually that develop these things have a strong user interface, the UX value, And by the way, I love that you keep calling your technology sexy. That's great.
Mm-hmm. We do too.
That is not a word that enough people use about their technology, and they really should, because it's not about sex appeal, right? It's just about it's interesting, it's alluring. It's something that you actually want to be doing.
But I think that word can be used in a myriad of different ways. Right. And it doesn't, technology doesn't have to be boring. It's it's revolutionary, it's evolutionary, and it is sexy when you crack the code on something that someone else hasn't done. You're like,
well, there's no template.
Yeah, look what I did.
Right? There is no template to say this is how it's done and this is what great looks like. You have to, follow some basic standards and just put it out there, and then it evolves.
100%.
Yeah,
100%. I think that, so I want to kind of just dive right on into this. So all of us work in the HR tech realm. And for anybody watching the show that doesn't know, so you all know that I run Titan Management, I do recruiting, consulting, blah, blah, blah. But I also have the patent pending anti-bias resume firing applicant tracking system that we've come out with and is now actually released to the public. Very excited about that.
Congratulations.
And thank you. Woo. Just we're able to do that. We have, and then we're further developing our DEI accountability feature as well, which is going to be incredible.
Yeah.
So, which is that's where I need to talk, of course, more to you, Linda, as well, because we want to kind of piece in what you're doing as well with that. So
awesome.
I want to so when you get into HR tech, I think the best HR tech people, at least from my experience, come from a background in HR recruiting. It's not so much tech people that then decide to get into HR. What do you ladies think?
I didn't come from HR. I was trained in marketing, and product management was my career in high tech. And then I started a career transition company helping individuals make really complex career transitions. So I was their muse, helping them navigate those rough waters.
That's HR related, though. That's like recruiting
on the
HR
periphery, right? The fun side of HR is what I always said. And then that evolved back into tech again. So, I didn't come from HR.
But you spent time in the placement space somehow. You're around the career placement and all of that kind of field.
Yeah. And I was a recruiter before. I worked for a recruiting company. I wasn't the recruiter, I was the marketing.
And she's like, no, I didn't come from that.
Okay, so I'm probably like the one that I didn't come up in this industry through the traditional channels, right? So I've run a couple of different public companies. I've started and sold a couple of different companies, but employee engagement and retention has always been sort of, I think, any company's really significant challenge. And so one of the reasons that I started Entry was the culture match. I found, we were having all this attrition. You'd go through and you'd recruit somebody and you'd bring them in, and then people are like, oh yeah, they're really talented, but then they didn't fit in with the other people on the team, and it created a lot of issues and sort of
conflict
and conflict. And so people were more focused on the conflict in their teams than they were in doing their jobs. And that's sort of how Entry initially came into being. But, my feeling on HR through the various companies is that I think it's a really undervalued, part of the company. And when I hear people say, oh, it's not a profit center, we gotta reduce the amount of people, I'm like, shut up. This is literally the heartbeat of your company. If you don't get the right people and you don't have enough people to find the qualified people, and then they beat on them and are like, oh, you're not bringing us enough qualified candidates. Oh, okay. You're asking me to stand on one leg with my hands tied behind my back, blindfolded, and do my job. And so
it's one of those things. Yeah, it's one of those things that you have to put time, effort, and money into. And with your HR, stop tying their hands. All you business owners 100%. And executives out there, quit tying your HR's hands. Give them all the resources that they need when they come to you and say, hey, I have this wonderful idea. Run with it, please. Run with it. Don't tell them no just to do it.
It's just, it seems like, it's like when you talk to them about really cool software that you have, you hear a lot of times, we don't have the budget.
Oh yeah, we hear that.
Right?
Yeah.
And it's like, but
people are your number one asset. Yes.
Yeah, they are. Oh, and this is my favorite thing. We don't have the budget, but then the CEO or the VP or whoever gets, a $30,000 bonus, and you're going, I asked for $1,000. Like, really?
Yeah.
And if you had done what I asked, your bonus would have been even bigger. So I feel like you're really just not helping yourself out very much.
Yeah.
And we had a comment from Janet Watson, said HR on the people side, LOL. the reason I say that is that there's a lot of HR that's compliance. There's HR that's about,
Right.
documentation,
Well, there's
that type of
silos.
stuff.
You got HR Don't Sue Me, HR Talent Acquisition, and HR, IT.
Wellness.
I think, yeah, exactly.
Benefits.
Documents, yeah, exactly. Benefits, all of that. So it sounds silly to say that human resources has a people side, but it actually does. But that was a funny comment. I like that. So
I think that's why people are differentiating between, heads of HR, heads of talent, heads of people, because they can see that there is a strategic side to HR and people development. And then there's a practical, obviously, an operational aspect to the discipline as well.
Yeah,
and you need
absolutely.
both.
And you want to add DEI onto that.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Oh, yeah. And please have a specific DEI expert, right? Like, I'm tired. I've seen so many companies go, oh, I found a Black person. Here, be my DEI person. Please don't do that. Mm-hmm. Don't do that. Get an actual expert. If you need one, reach out to me. I'll connect you. But you're right. There's so many different facets. So on the tech side, let's talk about where we've come from and where HR tech started, because it's really kind of funny how little certain aspects have changed and then how drastically other aspects have changed, right? Yeah, so let's start with what you ladies have seen in your time in the field.
Oh my gosh. So I can remember I was working for a company called Computer People, and we did not have a database to track our bench because we were doing a lot of HB1 visas and the candidates. So I actually built an access database to be able to do that, which was kind of the first tool that I used to manage.
Which is very sexy that you could do that.
That is pretty amazing. Yeah, that is pretty sexy. I think
that is like,
I've always been curious. I'm not afraid to try anything, and
that's
my whole
incredible.
Break it. So I don't mind that. But yeah, so I mean, from that perspective of that was my first kind of HR tech stack to use. And then we started to see technology evolve with, applicant tracking and, recruitment management. And then, back in the day when you had your first performance review program, vendors way back when they were, kind of the SAPs of the world, success factors, when they were, envisioning that first performance review and trying to get through that, they moved that path for us to be here today and, continue to move that ball forward in a different and more modern way.
And what's interesting to me, so when I started kind of diving in, because I did a speech on this recently, and I kind of started diving in and going, okay, where did we start? Let's really see where we started out. And of course, it all started with something along the lines of Excel and stuff like that to track, and just almost tragic and very, very complicated. But the first the true applicant tracking systems, okay, which came right after like Monster and all that kind of started showing up, is kind of, quote, basic as they were. Ultimately, the actual applicant tracking system hasn't changed that much. There's new apps that you can add on to it, but the actual applicant tracking system has kind of just, since the 90s, just kind of cruised along like, this is just what it is. Oh, well,
And there's some of them that are still done in DOS. I know you think I'm crazy.
Oh, gosh.
It's true.
I just found that out, like, when I was doing this research, and I went, nah. Because there's a lot of people now, you say DOS and they don't even know what you mean.
Yeah. I'm aging myself now.
That's crazy.
I
know. Like, I know that.
I just
like, I almost forget that ever existed. That was so archaic.
Well, I mean, it's like at Entry, I mean, we went in and we, analyzed over 100 different ATS system software, and we were like, that can't be possible. What? And you're like, but it is, and it's still being used by some really large companies, not just in the US, but really across the globe.
Exactly. And I say that to say, I brought that up because I think a lot of candidates don't realize what's going on the other side of the desk. So stop and think. If you're working with a company who has this system, who's either on DOS or not that far past it, that's going to slow them down a whole lot. So sometimes be patient with your HR folks with the tools they have, even though I guarantee you they've asked for better, are really, really sad and old. They just are.
I mean, I think too, it's been my experience, within HR that there's a lot of turnover in people in HR, in leadership. And so I think, the original team that might have brought that solution in isn't the team that it has now. And because they're so used to hearing no, 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 that they don't go in and advocate for themselves the way that they need to. And I think, when we look at all these new positions that are being, created, you've got chief people officers, you have, we have chief diversity officers, and all of those things are really critical to, I think, any organization's success. But you don't bring in some of the products and the software that your core HR teams need. And so you can roll out all of these great programs, but if you don't actually have the software to bring people in, and you're stopping people right at the gate, or their resume gets filtered off into Never Neverland, you don't even understand the amount of people that are coming in to your system that are applying.
Right.
And
that's something I've been preaching.
That you hit the one-click apply, and you go to the resume black hole.
Yes. And actually, that is something I have been speaking about a lot in my presentations to HR professionals and executives, is please make sure that all the filters are turned off on your ATS. First of all, make sure that people are actually getting seen. Okay, it's not that hard to look at a resume, And also, I told them, I said, stop casting quite such a wide net for some of these roles where you're going to get a lot of applicants. Don't send it everywhere, because that does really bog down your team. So just kind of getting them to properly use it. The other things, though, so you have the ATS, which just really needed a lot of help. And then you have the other parts of it. So you have the payroll stuff and all of that, which that's actually gotten pretty good. Payroll, I will say that, at least in my opinion, payroll tech's gotten
for sure.
They've
gotten
really
pretty darn good.
In the 21st century.
Yeah.
On your phone, your benefits, get your paycheck early. Yeah.
It's pretty amazing, actually. Payroll tech is pretty good. Then you have what is kind of become the bane of my existence on the employee relations side, which are all these technologies and apps out there that companies have decided will tell them the most about their people and who they should hire. And then once they're hired, who to promote. And I want to say that in general, there are some wonderful technologies. We're going to talk about what you guys do here in just a second with that actually do work, including, everybody that's watched the show knows I hate the old fashioned personality test where it's, if you see Sally Sue steal $5 from the register, what are you going to do?
Right.
I mean, it's shocking that people are even still using that.
Oh yeah. But all the time, all the time. Yeah. But they're so archaic and bad, and just stop doing that. And then there are the apps that they're trying to jump on the bandwagon, but they've completely missed the point. And people will see this and go, oh, this AI is going to be so great. I'm going, no, please don't use it. It can't replace a human being, but even so
around so loosely, it's so frustrating.
Yes. Oh, they also mislabel it.
Unbiased AI. Really? Tell me more about that.
Well, if they're using patterned versus complex, then that's a whole separate conversation.
We love that conversation. That could be a whole nother topic.
That's a whole nother.
Well, let's dive into it for just a minute, though, because that's something that a lot of people don't realize, is that technology can actually be biased, and it's because of the way that it was programmed in and little things like that. So, give me some examples. What are some things that you guys have seen?
Start.
I know there's so many.
This is like there are literally so many, and I'm just going to say, like, we have a lot of people that reach out to us and say, hey, we want to be a strategic partner, and we've got this, and we're like, okay, well, let's kind of see what it looks like, because we have the B2C solution, and we also have a B2B enterprise solution, and when you talk to people about is it complex AI, is it patterned AI? Patterned AI is really sort of if this, then this, and it's only as good as the information that you put in. Complex AI allows for evolution and for learning, and patterned AI does not.
Well, it's all about the data.
And
it's about the data you have in the system. I mean, when you're training a model requires vast amounts of data.
Yep.
And the data that you're using is it's biased to begin with, right? We have gender data, we have ethnicity data, we have age data, we have demographic data. And so how do you teach something to be completely unbiased? You know, like I was on a Georgia Tech webcast about this very topic, because I'm trying to understand how do you actually achieve that? And, you know, we've even had, even in our own company, where our customers would say, okay, we want to be as unbiased as possible. Like, well, what does that mean to you? Mm-hmm. And they said, well, you could hide someone's last name and then you don't allow pictures in the system. Okay, if that's what that's part of it, do, then we can do that. But then you get issues of people not wanting to use the tool. I mean, it's like people say they want to be completely unbiased, but when it comes time to actually clicking the I accept button and I'm going to actually move forward with all of these heuristics that would lead one to believe, what kind of demographic profile is this person? They don't want to actually do it. So you have to literally think about, when you're building your model, what model are you building? What's the outcome you're looking for? What is the data that it's being trained on? What is being reinforced in that data set when it's giving feedback, right? So, I mean, there's just so many complexities.
But I think, too, that there's really significant difference between complex AI and patterned, right?
Right.
When you do a lot of patterned AI, it is so much about the data that you're bringing in and making sure that it's as pure, right, as possible. But complex AI, and I built software with both, right? And now I wouldn't do anything unless it's complex, because complex can learn, right? And
machine learning,
and it is, how you index that information. I mean, all of those things really, as we move forward and make sure software is as free of bias as it can, and so we have a new software that we're going to be launching soon, where we have the ability to go into someone's existing technology and give it a bias scorecard. So we can go in and be like, okay, so you have this ATS system, or you have this, like a lot of the drug companies, one person reached out to us and said, hey, we do a lot of different drug trials and we're trying to build, cases for this, but we feel like our information is compromised. So we can go in there and be like, okay, so here's the different bias that are embedded in your technology and give them sort of a bias score.
That's cool. I like that. Actually, I'll have to use that for the ATS.
for sure. So, it's because I think that, it's so important. I mean, like, why I started Entry was, the cultural match. And then, one of my interns said, hey, what are you going to do about the resume thing? And I didn't know that the resume thing was a thing.
Right. I mean, a lot of people don't. They don't realize how very bad it is.
I didn't have a resume. I had like a bio. I mean, that's not even a resume. So I had to go back.
That's better. That's better.
Well, bio doesn't get you through an ATS system.
Well, right. But that's a whole other thing.
So I think that's a whole other can of worms. And when I went in and I was like, I applied to all these jobs just to beta test it. And I was like, crickets.
Yeah.
Like, not one response. There's like 37 resumes that I had submitted. And I was like, if I was looking for a job, I would feel really bad.
I had, it gets worse. I mean, I've talked to people that submit to jobs to which they're perfectly qualified, 50, 60, and they just nothing at all, just nothing. Yeah. And it's so frustrating for them. And one of the things that a lot of people don't realize is that as you're going through this, a lot of companies also, because they will get inundated or they just get frustrated with their own technology, they just cut it off after a few days, but they still leave the posting up. Which makes no sense to me.
What's frustrating about that, just from the hiring side of it, I've used a lot of ATS systems as a user. We don't have an ATS in our platform. But when I post a job and then I put the questions I want answered and the qualifications that they have to match to, the candidate matching still to this day is not superior. Meaning I still have to go through so many resumes. And I'm like, why is this person who has nothing to do with this industry or this job applying?
They apply to so many jobs and they get crickets.
Well, but it's not just that. There were some articles that really kind of screwed a lot of us recruiting people over a while back, because they were out there telling people it doesn't matter if you're qualified, apply. What?
Yeah, sort of the shotgun.
That makes zero sense. And the other thing too,
Texas.
The other things and you're welcome, Janet. Thank you so much for participating. The other thing that really kills me about that is you're not gonna get the job. But the other thing that happens is that people apply because they think, oh well, they'll have other jobs and they'll see my resume and they'll remember me.
Yeah, no.
Let me tell you, folks, no, that does not work. That is not a thing. And to your point about the applicant tracking systems, because trust me, they've been the bane of my existence for a very, very long time.
Yeah.
What I did with ours is that we created an app that is the patent pending part that sits on top of your ATS. And so it allows you to have all the same reporting and all that cool stuff that your ATS has. But what we did, because to your point, Linda, you cannot make a technology be unbiased. It's just not a thing. So what we did is we took out everything so that could potentially create a bias. Hopefully, that's our goal. And so there's no names, there's no dates, there's no anything. There's average tenure to show how your average time at a job. And the only question about education is, do you have the education required for this role? Yes or no? Because there are actually a lot of bias information that can come from the education part, even down to racial bias. Because what if you went to an all Black college or an all women's college or something like that? It can create that bias. And we did the skill matching and things like that. But we did everything we could to take out the parts that could, and to help people focus on what they should be looking at anyway when it comes to hiring, and kind of refocusing how that looks. But you cannot teach a technology to be completely, at least not yet, to be completely unbiased at this point. It's just not possible. It's just not possible. So, and then what's interesting too is that some interesting for the patterned ones, I think it's the patterned ones. I could be wrong. Please correct me if I'm wrong on this, Jennifer. But as you put in information, I guess it'd be the complex ones. They can learn the wrong things. They can actually learn to be biased based on the information. So
right. But there's also sort of like a basket, so if you do it right, and if you are sort of moral and ethical in the software that you develop, right, you create a catch, you create a checks and balances for yourself and for everything. So like if something teeters toward this way or this way, it's like, it's a red flag, right? It creates a bug, right? And or a ticket, right? So if you're using Jira, which I'm sure nobody really cares about me saying this right now, but you would go back and you'd be like, hey, here's a red flag. We're seeing this repetitive issue come up. And, I like when you go back to when you were mentioning about education, I think that there's a huge, not everybody needs to have a degree.
Oh my gosh. That's one of my big hot buttons.
You look at, who's the founder of Oracle, right? Microsoft. I mean, the list goes on and on and on of everybody who's these really successful companies and careers, and they didn't get a college education. And so for me, when I started hiring people, I wanted to take that metric away because I felt like there was a lot of people that were being sort of kicked to the curb, if you will, because they didn't have that. Or, there's some companies I know that they only go to these schools to look for the candidate.
Oh, yes.
And so there's all these other candidates that maybe they didn't have any money. Maybe they, we don't know what's going on in somebody's life.
But maybe they're really good at what they do.
They're not talented. Well, I mean, I'm sorry. Hello.
No, you're fine. No, you can say it.
I know a lot of people that went to a community college for 2 years,
state school,
or then transferred to a state school or whatever, and they're super smart and they're super talented. And just because they didn't go to Harvard or Yale or whatever doesn't mean they're any less valuable to your organization. And
100%.
So I think that is something that everybody, whether it's people like you in the recruiting space and people in the hiring space and CEOs that are setting the guidelines for some of this need to take a look at. And I think there's been a really significant shift in that. And I would say the last
it is getting better. Actually, it is getting drastically better. That's one that I'm seeing.
Yeah. Well, that's that focus on skills matter and, commerce on skills. And if people have certain skills, they get paid more. How do you optimize that model? How do you truly hire talent that's the right fit for the role, both from a cultural perspective and a technical perspective? But how do you know, right? How do you know?
Right.
Well, my best developer didn't get a degree in coding.
Right.
Didn't. I mean, he's like did something else, but he is literally, he's self-taught. And kind of as a result, his problem solving ability is astronomical.
Off the charts, I bet. Yeah.
Because it's like everyone else can go, I can't do this, and I'm be like, I'm going to talk to, I'm not going to say who it is because that would be unfair. But but you know, I go to him and I'm like, so I'm on this challenge, and he's like, okay, and he'll ask a couple questions, and I'll be like, I'll get back to you, you know, probably tomorrow, and it's never the next day. It's usually like, you know, within the 3 or 4 hours.
Yeah, he is fear
because he looks at it through a completely different lens, because he hasn't been said, if this, then this. He's like, well, why not this?
Exactly. And that's what you want.
Game changing.
That's what you want. When I got my top advisor on my applicant tracking system, Mervyn Kennedy McFoy, he's terrific, amazing human being. And he's not from the tech realm. He's not from the HR realm necessarily. But he has a very unique skill set and a very unique way of approaching things. And he comes in, and he never minds me sharing this, he is on the autism spectrum as well. So he is neurodiverse. And the way that he communicates is so brilliant. And he just, if he dives into something, he goes all the way down the rabbit hole. I mean, there is no stone unturned. He sees it from every perspective.
I know people like that.
Yeah.
And it's right.
Like, climb out.
It's like, I can't get back out of here. I'm so far down. I'm all the way down in Wonderland. But he's really remarkable. And when I reached out to him, and he kept asking me, why are you picking me? How did you figure this out? And I said, I was paying attention to you because I live on LinkedIn with what I do, right? So I'm always on there. And I was seeing how he commented and how he thought and how he would take something from one post and develop a whole solution for it and then make that his post. And it was incredible. It was incredible to watch. And then I kind of tested my theory once, telling him he was just watching a demo, but I asked for his opinion. And boy, did I get it. And just to your, what you were talking about earlier, sometimes you need it. And it was positive in some ways. He loved the idea, but he had all these thoughts about it. And so now he's on board, and he's designing what's going to be one of the most amazing pieces of our technology, part of how we got into Web Summit coming up, you know, in November. And it's all him. And it's a completely different hire. I didn't, you know, look at a resume for him. I didn't check and make sure that he had, you know, this many years experience with an ATS or taking a technology to market. I said, what do I need? What kind of mindset do I need? What do I need for somebody to be able to do? And now I've just partnered him. You know, we've just interviewed a wonderful UX person who's going to come in and finish out what he's designed, and it's perfect. And our developer, he started his career doing like plumbing and stuff like that, and then he decided to do IT, did all his education, got out there, and he even has done products with, you know, government contracts. I mean, projects with government agencies and stuff like that. He's amazing.
So that goes back to, that's a career launch right there, right? I mean, it's a transition. You start in one area and you work your way to something else that is, you know, a dream that seems too far away. And then you have people that believe in that dream, and people like us that support that journey
or we're the dreamers.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, I mean, it's you know, when I look back at my career and the companies that I've started or run or marketing jobs, you know, whatever, and people are like, so you went from manufacturing to lighting to healthcare to HR.
I'm right there with you. I was all over the gamut.
You know, and it's you know, there's nothing I think that you can't do, you know, with you know, educating yourself and jumping in and understanding the market 100%. And where are their opportunities, you know, and there are many times, you know, where I'm like, oh, we went right, but we should have gone left, you know, learn from those. But it's also,
and those are all skills that you're developing along the way that are transferable. Right. So I always go back to skills. I love skills. I mean, like, I live and breathe skills, right? But as you're building your career, you're going to emphasize those skills that you're developing, and a lot of those skills are transferable.
Absolutely.
Right, especially the soft skills, the leadership skills, the managerial skills, and then you have some domain expertise that you might need to acquire along the way if you're switching industries. But those are all things that we don't really teach people how to do. We don't really give them a roadmap for how to make a pivot, right? Because those are all pivots in our lives.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And we don't teach people how to take that, into your own control and really drive that forward. Sometimes it's just haphazard and happenstance. You ended up where you ended up. But, my philosophy is how do you get on the front of that? And how do you navigate and steer that a little bit more where, and this is why my whole thing is teach people skills that are important. What are those critical skills that are hot in the industry, that are hot in an organization? And how can that skill really translate across a lot of different jobs? And that's why talent marketplaces are becoming more popular. And those,
for sure.
Which was real. It's an evolution of an ATS. It's,
it is.
How do you take talent that has a certain profile and redistribute that talent across many different,
especially now.
Now, do you guys
see an article today? There was, I can't remember if it was the New York Times. I'm kind of a newsie in the morning, and I can't remember because
and a boozy at night.
I don't know. A little bit newsy in the morning and a boozy at night. That's like a song.
Slow down, Captain.
She filled my glass of wine.
We're teasing.
Right, you gotta.
She called you out. She straight up called you out.
No.
I guess you gotta prove it. I don't know.
Hey, we don't know what's in her coffee cup. I'm just saying. We do not know.
So, but you made me lose my train of thought.
Sorry.
But what I was going to say is that, there was an article this morning and it was saying like 95% of people are looking for a new job.
Yeah.
And they're looking for a new job because.
Oh, I thought that was 60. Was it 65 or 95?
95.
Oh, I saw one that said 65 this morning.
Well, I think she's talking about even passive, like just like generally.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Even 65 for active.
I know it's so
is monstrous.
That's huge.
But when you look at 95, what is that saying about how people are feeling valued? How does it feel about people? They're not feeling seen. They're not feeling valued. And they're seeing that, like the
grass is greener somewhere else.
I mean,
even though it's not.
Right. And a lot of times it's not, but that's the perception. But I think
that is true. But we just came through COVID, right?
Right.
And there was in the next article that was attached to this was how people are moving to different states and they're moving to really small towns because they can have a more balanced life. They can live in a nicer, bigger, better house or apartment or townhouse or whatever they want.
It's happening in my community and I'm not happy about it. I wanted to stay quiet and little here and people keep coming. I'm like, go away.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like Austin.
Oh my gosh.
A few years ago, Austin was like, voted
still sleepy.
And now it's
boom.
Yeah. I mean, like, you could see outside my office window right now. I mean, there used to be no traffic and now it takes me like 2 minutes to get out of the parking lot.
I think too, and to your point, and the traffic is killing people. I mean, it really is. But I think to your points, so many people are looking, right? And I think a big part of it is, and Linda, you nailed it with this, is that they are not being nurtured and they are not being taught the things that matter to them.
Yep.
And companies fail with this a lot. I learned this from a manager that I know that's tremendous. Who now works for me.
I always say when I interview, I work for this person. And it has to be
and he and I have worked together in different capacities for well over a decade. But I learned from him that when you get somebody in, you train them and do all that, let them get used to their job, but then you stop and you look at them and go, okay, what matters to you? Where are you trying to go? Well, or I see this about you. Tell me where that came from. And then you nurture that. I've had people that were under me when I still worked for other people, and I would send them, they would end up being in a different department, or I'd help nurture them to grow skills that sent them off on the career path they always dreamed of, or what have you.
Boss should do. Right?
And it's not that I didn't but I didn't get more work out of them.
To be honest with you, I really do.
It's true. That's
really
true. They've just completely lost it.
It's an art of, and full disclosure, early in my career, we had these 360s. And I got a really bad 360. And I was the boss and my team felt like I didn't spend enough time getting to know them because, we had so much to do. There was only so many hours in a day. And so I was like, sort of the water cooler conversation. I was like, oh, do I really have to do this? Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Right.
Like, I can't.
But when I got that feedback, because I'm a very nice person. I mean, I'm mostly a very nice person.
She said, I'm a very nice person. That's the opposite of me. I'm mean. I am mean to the bone.
Yeah,
but I can fake it.
No, I can. I mean,
oh God, I'm nice and kind to the core.
Core. I mean,
to the core. To the core.
Better lie to you.
No, I can be intense when I need to be, but for the most part, the optimist.
I feel like she's filtering it. I'm intense. That's where I'm intense.
I'm intense. You know, when I walk in a room and I'm not happy, but I'm still kind.
Oh yeah, I tell people I'm ethical, but I'm definitely not sweet. You would never use sweet to describe me.
Oh,
that is not it. I am ethical, but not sweet at all. But yeah, so that stuff's hard for me too. That stuff stresses me out.
But the feedback was, so I was like, well, like I care about these people. Like I want them to, do well and get their bonuses and move on their career path, and that we have sort of mapped out. But when I took the time to say, hey, how's your baby? How's your son? How was your date? How was whatever? Or when I spent like 15 years in and out of Hong Kong and China and Asia. And, this was back in the day when you could, go buy, it looked like a Louis Vuitton, but it wasn't a Louis Vuitton. I'm just going to say. And so I brought one back for everybody in my team. And I was very thoughtful about like, okay, well, this person is this down, this person is, and the seeing people, the listening to them and the things that are important. My career, I thought, was like on a trajectory, sort of like this, and that put it like that.
Yeah. I mean, as a career coach, your goal is to know everything about everyone. And I know a lot about my team, probably more than I should, but that's why your company is growing, and that's why people love to work at your company and they work for you, because that feedback, even though it sort of crushed my soul at the time, it was game changing for me personally, and it was game changing for my career trajectory. Yeah.
Because you can be really good in this one area, but if you can't understand the heartbeat of your team, you're only going to get to a certain level.
And you just hit the nail on the head. It's the heartbeat, because Linda, as you said earlier, they're the life force. They are it. They are the living part of your company, and you have to nurture them. You have to teach them. You have to grow. And by the way, innovation can come by doing this with your people. I had a young woman who worked with me, and I sat her down. I said, "Where are you trying to go in life?" She was very shy, very withdrawn, and she said, "Well, I've always wanted to do event planning." And when she started talking about that, she lit up. And keep in mind, she was working with me in a recruiting, space. And so I said, great. So you're going to head up our events. She goes, what? I said, yeah, I've been wanting to get into doing mass hire events. I've been wanting to get into do this and that. So you're going to head all that up. She lit up, and she took it and she ran.
You really like it. I mean,
yeah, and she did.
And that's why I miss the days where when I was doing career coaching, we used to have a company in Austin, and they would create any type of job experience that you wanted to try on before actually moving into that career. And that was
wow.
That's cool.
My biggest resources. I would use somebody, you want to be a chef? All right, let's go in and be a chef for a week. And it was a paid career vacation.
That's so cool.
And I use that service constantly, because sometimes most of the time.
Amazing. Are they still around?
I haven't looked.
I know I'm kind of stuck on this now too. I just want to know where this comes from.
I know.
I probably could
maybe
still.
I want to go try it.
Amazing.
I probably still have it bookmarked. But no, these are real things, because sometimes the biggest challenge, right, is it doesn't matter if you're doing applicant tracking or if you want to make a move internally. I mean, some people know exactly what they want to do, and they have a trajectory, and it's from, I want to be a software QA person to a CTO. And then you have other people who have a more portfolio career, and they're all about the experience and the journey, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they're going to be more organic, and they're going to navigate different ways. But what still matters, right, is the ability to be self-aware of who you are, to be a little bit on the forefront of where do I want to go. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a job, but it has to be, what are the things that I want to do day in and day out? And you have to be able to articulate that to people like us, or to a manager, because a manager is hiring for a role. They have a role or a project that needs to get done.
Do y'all think that there's a certain sort of lack of self-awareness right now? I feel like,
I think that there is. Actually,
hiring people, I feel like they're there is a lack of self-awareness.
I think because people, I think that it's
more self-confidence.
I think it's not so much.
I think those are two separate things.
They are.
I don't think that it's necessarily a self-awareness how a lot of people think of it. I think that people know what they want. I just think that they've been taught that they can't have it. That this is what you've been doing, so you have to keep on doing it. You can't change. You can't do anything different.
That's true, because you're locked in, right? You've been doing it. You're making so much money. If you take if you make a change, you're going to make less. You're going to be on the bottom of the totem pole. All of those things are real. But also the thing that you have to remember is when people go through transition and they've been let go, downsized, whatever term you want to use.
Or they're applying for jobs and they can't get any interviews.
Yep. I mean, that confidence is so that knock to your confidence is so powerful.
That's true.
Guessing everything.
That is true.
I have a question for you though. So as a recruiter, right? How do people get the attention of a recruiter?
Oh yeah. So I'm going to go from this to answer this gentleman's question that he posted, because he wants to know, I think our comments are a little bit delayed, and he wants to know how you maintain the work-life balance that we were talking about a minute ago. So I'm going to kind of just write it on in there. So to get a recruiter's attention right now, first of all, right now it's not hard because the job market is atrocious and candidate pool is frightening, and right now it's not going to be as hard. But honestly, the personal approach, you cannot just submit a resume right now and really get a whole lot of attention, because you're going to get lost in the magical abyss, right? We kind of talked about that. Now you can have a better resume that will help. And if you do something, like what Jennifer does, that really will help, because it will get you through the system. It will look the way it's supposed to look. It'll look the way that recruiters want things to look, that their mind is biased to. So that will help you. Right. However, do creative things. Get on LinkedIn and comment on their posts, and then message them. Don't just message them out of the blue. That gets very, very annoying. Right. But comment on their stuff and then message them. Send them an email. One of the best tips I ever. And videos are really cool right now. So that's a new thing that's kind of been happening, is some candidates are creating videos of themselves instead of a cover letter.
TikTok and is promoting this.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah. Thank you for saying that. Yeah. TikTok is promoting that. Yeah. And it's amazing.
Platform. Yeah. Watch me dance.
Yeah. And I've seen some dancing cover letters, and it's hysterical, and it's so cute. I love it. I love it. And people get to show off who they really are, and that lets a company get to know you, which is really awesome. Then I had a candidate years ago, and his whole thing was that he sent out e-cards to, and it was not like a, hey, come hire me. He would, for whatever the upcoming holiday was, or the season, or whatever in the world it was, or even just a, hey, I noticed you did this awesome thing. Congratulations. He would send e-cards, like those pretty animated e-cards. And at the end, it would say your candidate hopeful with his name. He got multiple interviews doing that, because the people were just so blown away.
Innovative, right? It was like it made him stand out.
And it did not take him long, by the way. Right. Like each of these took like 3 minutes.
Remember the early 90s when we were doing all of those creative
I was still in high school.
Recruitment campaigns? Oh my gosh. Like when I was interviewing for Blockbuster, their head of the digital transformation, and I wanted an interview so bad, and I went to a designer and I had him I took a Blockbuster video cassette and I put my name on the top, but it was in a Blockbuster, and in it I made a film reel there were 12 of all the reasons why they should hire me, and at the end was my resume. And I love it. I got flown into Florida, but those things,
awesome. I love that.
That is awesome, actually.
A company called PC Order, which is no longer around, but we did the most amazing, which was part of Trilogy. We did the most amazing recruiting campaigns ever on the universe. Like the campaigns were so incredible.
That's a pretty high bar.
Yeah, that is. I was gonna say, ever? Really?
Ever. Really. I've not seen anything like it since then.
All right, well, give us the details.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's things like that.
I need to know.
People
no, but now we want to know.
Yes.
I need to know the details.
Of one. Like we would do things like that where people would send in like a dirty sneaker and they'd have a whole story. I'm not kidding. Like the craziest thing to get in the door.
A dirty sneaker. I don't
think I want somebody's dirty shoe. I'm just going to put that out there that I candidates who want to contact me, do not send me your dirty shoes.
You'd be surprised the kind of creativity that can come through. But like you were saying with the videos, I think what you're saying is just don't do the
don't do that. And don't do anything that's cookie cutter, because everyone can tell. Yeah. Don't do that. It just doesn't work, like where you're just plugging in names and stuff like that. Do not hire somebody because I've seen some of this too. Do not hire one of these LinkedIn marketers to go around and just blast messages to every recruiter that they can find.
Yeah.
It's not good. And also it will mess you up in LinkedIn's algorithm, just so that you know. And to this gentleman's point that asked us the question about work-life balance, because I've had, and I'm going to tie this in because a lot of candidates right now are so stressed because they've been looking for months and they are spending 8 to 9 hours a day. First of all, do not spend 8 to 9 hours a day looking for a job. You will go certifiably insane. Or at least have fun with it. Like do the videos and do e-cards and stuff like that. Do some more stuff like that, but break it up. Break it up. And
also, like,
when you're
take time to do things.
Learn
something new, you know, like
and network. Yes, you said the magical word, Linda. Network. Definitely always network.
That is sort of a lost art. I really feel like.
It is.
And I try to tell everybody on my team, I'm like, listen, you're not going to be with me forever. You know, so you've got to build your network. You have to reach out to people that are.
And don't start doing it when you're looking. Do it always, so that then you have the network.
Yes. You know, like even in Austin, you know, Austin Technology Council, we have Beam Founders. There are so many amazing groups to network in, to build your community of your peers.
But I also think, so you jump in ahead of me. No, I'm just kidding. So like I personally just signed up for this masterclass.
Yeah. Oh, did you do it online on the iPhone, the masterclass?
Oh, I mean, I'm doing it on my computer.
Oh, I bought the subscription.
Yeah,
yes, I love that site.
It's amazing.
Yes.
And it's like, you know, okay, well, I don't like, I'm probably never going to make a movie, but I love listening to these people about what does it take to make a movie, you know, and what is it, you know, when you write a book, what goes into that writing a book? How do you build the
Have
outline?
you been to that site?
I've seen it. Yeah, I've seen it. I haven't signed up, but I've seen it. And
that's my work-life balance right there.
It's amazing. And it's you know, like I did
it's
something
intimate too. It's very even though it's for the group, it feels.
Do you guys use Canva?
I use Snappa, but it's similar. Yeah. It's very similar.
I'm like, I was still in sorry PowerPoint land. And so I signed up for a tutorial on Canva because I was like, I'm seeing all these great designs and presentations, and I'm like, oh yeah, we did it on Canva. I'm like, God damn it, I need to find out.
They do some pretty cool stuff. But learn a skill.
Teach yourself.
Learn a skill.
That's
a skill. Yeah, that's
educate, and that will help you stand out as a candidate, and it'll make you advance in your life. It'll help you to advance. But really, with work-life balance, I always tell people, I don't ever really turn off because I'm an entrepreneur. You guys know, you don't ever really turn off. You're always half crazy and doing stuff, and it's, you know, and I'll be sitting there in the middle of dinner and go, oh, I just had a genius idea, and I have to stop and like take a note about it or send an email. But make sure that you recharge your brain a lot. You know, get out there. You know, take little breaks throughout the day because that actually is healthier for you. And be in a place that doesn't make you feel stressed. So, for instance, when I lived down in Miami, just being there made me feel stressed. Just being there. And the second I left, I felt myself decompress. Like when I was driving away, moving up to my beautiful home now, I just decompressed on the way. I just like relief. Live somewhere, and like when you're talking about the traffic outside of your window and stuff, like to me that sounds awful. Some people love it. There are some people that live
absolutely. Know yourself.
Know yourself. Know where you need to be. Work in a place that has the right kind of vibe for you. Do you want to work at a Google? Do you want to work at a place where you can go sit on a beanbag and work? Do you want to work in a real suit and tie kind of place? Because maybe that is what relaxes you. It makes you happy in your life. Whatever it is. You want to work in a pet-friendly place, not pet-friendly place, whatever it is. Do whatever it is that helps you breathe. It just helps you to.
That's 100%. But I think that ties back into the article, and like my personal work-life balance is, you know, I don't know what that is. I mean, if I'm giving the honest answer, I don't, you know, what I do for myself for balance is I do something every day that brings me joy.
Yep.
You know, whether that is, you know, so I live on a ranch, right? So I've got, you know,
animals, a great ranch, beautiful horses.
And whether that's going out.
I need to come visit you. Oh, eventually that will be my life. Eventually.
And, you know, and that gives me joy. Or I have this tree, I call it my avatar tree.
Yep.
And it's technically called a mimosa tree.
I love mimosas.
And normally in where we live, they don't get that big. And this is, Linda's been there, so it's ginormous. And that gives me joy, or going to see, the chickens, or just, taking a break. And I think it's not a big thing, but it's kind of a big thing, because you're giving yourself a break, and you're doing something that fills up your engine or your gas tank.
100%.
And that's really important, because as entrepreneurs, we are always on, and, vacation, like, really, I can't, I can't 100% detach. Not that I don't have a solid team, but sometimes there's,
when I go on vacation, I just have a prettier view.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
And I do go out and do stuff. I do, but I can't ever completely detach.
That, when my kids were younger, I really did say, from this time to this time, I'm not available. Unless
I do that.
Dire,
I do too.
Unless something is really dire.
Yeah. No.
If you reach out to me and it's not going to end well.
Yeah, I get that way. I'm that way, and I have friends people that do not.
Then the nice Jennifer left the building.
Yeah, and my time with my husband is my thing, and I actually had a conversation about that earlier.
Husband, so that's a real
same. Yeah, same. Yeah. But we love it. She's like, I don't want to do that. That's not
that.
Well, work-life balance is really hard, because it depends on your lifestyle, right? Some people have young kids, some people have high schoolers, some people are taking care of their aging parents, families are coming together more through COVID. Kids are living back at home again. The boomerang generation is back again, because kids are just young adults are finding it hard to live on their own, or they don't want to live with 4 roommates, right? So work-life balance is such a broad topic. And I think what Jennifer is saying is right? You really got to take stock of where you are, who you are, and what brings you joy each day. Because some days,
it's the joy factor.
Yeah, it is. It might be 12-hour days, it might be 16-hour days, it might be a 6-hour day. But if you can find that one thing that brings you joy, whether it's a TikTok video or a master class, or she's looking at her tree, it's similar for me too, right? Just had another high school student. He's going off to college. I work with my husband. Aging parents. My house got flooded.
Oh,
living in a rental house, like through the storm, so there's so many
through
things.
The snowpocalypse here in
growing
Austin.
a company, coming out of COVID.
Texas.
There's so many things, and your life is always going to be consumed with stress. And if you don't manage that stress takes control of you. So,
and sharing with friends.
Like we go out all the time, and
you have to have that.
Talk about our days without anybody else there.
Yep.
And commiserate, and sometimes. Reward each other.
It's hard being
right?
all the time.
It is. And you have to, and people don't realize HR is a very stressful field, whether on the tech side, the people side, whatever side you're on. HR is stressful. It's hard. And kind of in our last few minutes, I want to ask you guys, because because we are so people focused, even on the tech side, right? Because that's what we are. It's the human resources. We're all focused on human beings. So going forward, with HR tech, I mean, we've talked about it needs to keep growing, and it needs to keep, we need to be able to do these things. What do you see as being the next big advancements that we have to have in HR tech going forward that will help people have their work-life balance, that will help people have their best work life, that will help nurture people into their next big career move? What do we need?
Yeah. Well, I mean, from my perspective, there's a lot of tech stack out there, and people are turning over their tech stacks in HR. And I think that helping HR first and foremost in minimizing or automating the tasks that they have to do day in and day out that are taking up so much time.
The mundane.
The mundane things through AI and machine learning, I think is absolutely imperative, because they need to free up that time to do higher value things and more strategic things for the organization. And then figuring out, there's a whole new world out there, and we don't really know how this is going to shake out with the hybrid model, the remote in office, people moving around all the time. We have a little bit of the, it's kind of a portfolio career. People are trying to figure out where employees, what are they going to do? Where do they want to go? How do they want to develop? We can't overwhelm them with technology either. Truly, technology has to be there to deliver some value and some efficiency, and it has to be super easy, because nobody has
that.
And I think I think it has to be affordable for people,
Yes.
so that they can make it work within their skill.
There are some
launch quickly. No long timelines.
Yeah, I mean, I think implementation is like as developers and people who are building, HR tech solutions, that's something to really be mindful of.
Yes.
To me, I think the biggest thing going forward, is obviously I believe in, leveling the playing field on the resume perspective, right? But
100%.
I think, really addressing bias in the hiring process and that's already
in the promotional process.
And it's embedded in various enterprise system software.
Yes.
And I think really recognizing that HR shouldn't be a drain. It shouldn't be like a line item, right? It should be a focus. And we as people who are trying to lift up people in the HR departments, because that's literally what we're trying to do, is to say, listen, we're here to make your jobs easier.
Right.
And we're also trying to make sure that they get diverse candidates in to their company so that they can make, good decisions. And I think, the last 18 months has been a massive sea of change.
It has been.
And I think it's critical for all of us who are in this space to really acknowledge it and to reach out to people and be like, listen, we get that you have a really hard job, but we have something that we think can make it easier. And they have to be open to that. And I think, there's so much of like, ooh, I don't know, is this going to take my job away? And it's like, actually, this is going to make your job
It's going to make your job easier. It's like what I tell people with my recruiting services. It's the same thing. I'm not here to replace you. I'm here to help. I'm here to aid. Yeah. And with that note, I want to thank you both so very much for coming on. It's been wonderful.
Thank you.
First, before we go real fast, tell everybody how they can get hold of you.
For me, they can go to intry.careers. And they can always email me. I usually talk and make time for everybody. So it's J and then my last name, Sethre, SETHRE and then intry.careers.
Wonderful.
And we're talentguard.com. And you can find me on LinkedIn and message me there.
Because we have dropped the LinkedIn. We have dropped the LinkedIn down there.
Yeah, LinkedIn is the best way. If you want to ask me a question.
Wonderful. And I want to thank you again, ladies. You've been absolutely wonderful. It's been a true joy having you both on. Definitely check out everything that we're doing. Our upcoming episodes are going to be pretty darn amazing. We have more DEI episodes, how to position yourself for advancement coming up, more payday law. We have a bunch of amazing, really cool episodes coming up. So definitely check out our future episodes on careerlaunchlive.com. And we will see you next time.
Right.